Hi there, my name's Natasha, and in this video, I'm going to give you one simple strategy for each of the 4 sections of the PTE exam to reach that top score. Let's get into it. Now, this first strategy is for writing. Use comparative and superlative adjectives. You might be asking, what are comparative and superlative adjectives? These are adjectives that are used when we want to compare items. We use them to describe the differences between things. Comparative adjectives compare two people, places, or things to show how they are different. These adjectives usually use ER at the end. For example, we can say John is tall to describe John. Or to compare John to someone else, we can say John is taller than Peter. Instead of adding ER, we also use more. We do this when the adjective has 2 or more syllables, like expensive. For example, we would say coffee is more expensive than tea. For superlative adjectives, we use these to compare more than 2 people, places, or things. We use superlative adjectives to show the highest level of comparison or how that person, place, or thing is different to all the others. With superlative adjectives, we use the ending est. For example, we can say, John is the tallest in his family. Or we use most for adjectives with 2 or more syllables. For example, we can say, coffee is the most expensive drink here. So, perhaps you're thinking, I can see why using comparative and superlative adjectives is a useful grammar skill to have, but you're probably also wondering how this will instantly improve your writing skills. Well, writing tasks often ask you to compare things. You could be comparing objects or concepts, evaluating ideas, discussing differences in options, or justifying an opinion. In the PTE exam, comparative and superlative adjectives are going to be helpful in the right essay question. That's because many of the essay question types ask you to compare things. You might be giving your opinion on something, justifying your ideas, agreeing or disagreeing with a statement, or arguing for or against an idea. All of these essay types require comparison. Using comparative and superlative adjectives is going to help you score well in content by showing that you adequately address the prompt, which often requires you to make comparisons. It will contribute to your grammar score because it shows grammatical control. It also helps you get a good score for general linguistic range by showing you can use a wide range of language to differentiate between things. And finally, your vocabulary range, because it demonstrates a broad lexical repertoire or range. Not only do comparative and superlative adjectives help you to describe both sides of a topic or situation, more importantly, they help you express yourself precisely, clearly, and appropriately. So how can you work on this skill? Once you know the rules, comparative and superlative adjectives can be mastered pretty easily, but it's important to make sure you give yourself enough time to practice. You can do this by signing up for free at e2testprep.com. Our writing tasks give you the opportunity to practice using comparative and superlative adjectives. You can even submit your writing for feedback from expert teachers. Sign up today. The next strategy is for the reading section. Learn collocations. What is a collocation and why is it important? Well, simply put, a collocation is 2 or more words that usually go together, like take a photo, not make a photo, or high salary, not big salary. Knowing collocations helps with predicting what comes next in a reading passage. But how does knowing collocations help in the reading section? Well, quite a few different kinds of questions rely on you knowing collocations in order to work out the correct answer. Take a look at this reading fill-in-the-blanks task. Here, the second blank is a great example of needing to know a collocation to be able to find the answer. In this case, it says, something comedy. So we need an adjective to go before the noun comedy. From the drop-down list, you can see black, boring, and tragic. They all seem possible, but which is correct? Well, boring comedy and tragic comedy aren't words that go together. They don't collocate. In this case, the answer is black. Black comedy is a common collocation. It means something that is funny, but also quite dark. Without knowing this collocation, it would be hard to know what black comedy means since comedy doesn't have a literal color. The third blank also needs you to know the correct collocation. It says, plot something. Plot changes seems possible and makes sense, but it's not a collocation, so it's incorrect. Do you know what the correct collocation is? That's right, it's plot twists. That's the right wording to talk about sudden changes in the storyline. So knowing these collocations can really help you to answer this type of question in the test. You probably already know some collocations in English, but building your knowledge of collocations is going to really help improve your reading skills. Language isn't just about knowing individual words. Knowing word combinations is what's going to raise you from a mid-level user to an advanced one. But how can you build your collocations knowledge? This one's a little tricky because you're going to have to study them directly by reading, listening, and watching a variety of material and paying attention to collocations you come across. You can also check dictionaries and other online sources. For example, in many online dictionaries, when you look up a word like skill, for example, not only do you get the definition, but there's often also a list of the most common collocations, usually organized by type, like this. And as always, you can sign up to one of our E2 courses, which will help you to improve your collocation skills. We've designed our practice materials to introduce you to unique collocations that you might see on test day. Okay, moving on now to our simple listening strategy. It is listen to weird and unfamiliar topics. Wait, what? Why am I telling you to listen to weird stuff? I know, sounds kind of crazy, but bear with me. I bet at the moment you have certain topics you like to listen to in English to try and improve your listening skills. Maybe you always listen to a soccer podcast, or you like to listen to English love songs, or watch episodes of your favorite TV show. And that will help your English, but the problem is if you only listen to the same type of thing, it won't improve the range of your vocabulary. But what sort of topics will there be in the PTE exam? Well, some example topics include things like chemical reactions, international business expansion, innovation policies, oil consumption, and medical research findings. So, like I said, pretty weird. But by listening to more weird and unfamiliar topics, you'll be exposed to lots of new and interesting vocabulary. And that will mean when you listen, you're able to understand so much more. So, where can you go to listen to a variety of topics in English and learn a wide range of vocabulary? Well, TED Talks are always interesting. You can listen to talks on a huge range of topics, from holding your breath to what the floaty things are in your vision. Podcasts are also a great way to increase your English vocabulary, and our podcast, Everyday English with E2, is a great place to start. Everyday English with E2 is available on a variety of podcast platforms, so check it out. A link is available in the description below. Okay, lucky last, speaking. And our simple strategy is develop your connected speech skills. So, let me guess. You've probably been studying and speaking English for quite a while. You've mastered all those different verbs and tenses, and you've worked on expanding your vocabulary. And all in all, you know how to say what you want to say. But without connected speech, you won't be able to say it very well. So here are a few examples of some of the ways we connect speech. Linking. That's when a consonant sound at the end of one word gets linked to the first sound of the next word. For example, going out, not going out. Deleting. This is when the last sound of a word disappears, and it often happens with T and D sounds. For example, we must go, not we must go. Adding. This is when an extra sound is added in between two words. For example, 2 or 3. Changing. This happens when sounds blend together, making a totally new sound. For example, the words don't you sound like don't you. Combining. This happens when a first word ends with the same consonant sound that the next word begins with. When that happens, we often put the sounds together and make the sound longer. For example, I want to. But why is connected speech so important? Well, if you pronounce all sounds and words correctly, but you say each word individually, you'll definitely sound quite strange, like a computer trying to talk. See? To achieve a high pronunciation score on your speaking test, you must have connected speech, natural rhythm, pace, and stress. So as you aim for high score, having skills in connected speech will really help you get there. Basically, there are 2 ways you can work on developing your skills in this area. Listen to others and speak more yourself. With listening, try to listen to a range of accents: American, Australian, British, and so on. If you're watching anything in English, for example, put the subtitles on so you can listen to and read what's being said at the same time. You could also do this by listening to an audiobook while reading it. And many podcasts also post transcripts too. As I mentioned before, be sure to check out the Everyday English with E2 podcast. So, how can you practice connected speech? When you listen, try to copy what you hear. Listen to some speech from a native speaker, like from a TV show, YouTube, podcast, or any recording, then mimic what you hear. Record yourself and see how close your speech sounds to what you heard. In fact, recording yourself speaking and listening back to yourself is a great practice tool on its own. That way, you can make any changes you need to improve further. And that's it. You now know the one key thing you can do to instantly improve your listening, reading, writing, and speaking skills. For writing, it's use comparative and superlative adjectives. For reading, it's learn collocations. For listening, it's listen to weird and unfamiliar topics. And for speaking, it's develop your connected speech. You are now one step closer to test day success. Remember, you can practice all the strategies we talked about today at e2testprep.com. Thanks for watching and good luck on your studies.